place for you. No need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken. Place for you, no need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.
And shalom alaikum to each and every one of you. We're so glad to have you with us on this day. This is that day Yahweh, our Elohim, has made. It is my will. I hope it's your will to rejoice and literally be glad in it. This is not a day we do for liking. This is a day we do for lifing. And we want to make sure that we are aware that what we do in this hour and in this time and in this place as to what needs to be done and how it should be done and why it's got to be done. So in this hour, we come before you to let you know that Yahweh, who is our Elohim, is the only one who matters and what matters most. This is that day that Yahweh, who is our Elohim, has made. It is my will, hope it's your will, to rejoice and be glad in it. Let's take opportunity to pray, shall we? Father, we come before you in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. You alone are holy and righteous. You alone are the only one that gives us hope and health and strength and peace. We stand before you in praise. We stand before you in honor of who you are and why you are in our lives. We ask now this day that you would grace us with your wisdom and your understanding and your spirit and your joy. Yahweh, introspection in a day like today is extremely important. Many of us have and many of us have not. But you've had my attention all morning and all night. And we take opportunity to repent for what you bring to our minds of what we didn't think we were doing. And we take the opportunity to let you know that we don't think like you. Your thoughts are much higher than our thoughts. Our thoughts are not like your thoughts. As far as the heavens are from the earth, so are our thoughts from yours. It's clear, it's true. And we take opportunity to repent. To you be glory. To you, Elohim, be honor. To you, Elohim, be praise. Teshuvah. Repentance is where you want every man to come. Every woman, every human, every child. Pediatrics to geriatrics. Babes and to those who are even on their deathbeds. This Sabbath is that day that you cause for man to contemplate his ways and then with your guidance construct our way going forward. It is in the considering of our ways that we realize how untrue we can be, not even knowing we're being untrue to you. As you showed us with Isaiah and you showed us with Ezekiel, your prophets of the Tanakh. Though our righteousness may stand high above our peers in this earthen realm, though our righteousness and our understanding of you may be questionably more in depth than others, our social standards, our church society of standards, our religious affiliations of righteousness, and those standards are only at this level, at this realm. Our righteousness compared to righteousness is as filthy rags. We can justify what we do in the earth. We can justify what we do in our spheres of influence, in our circles. And though be the realist, make the effort to be the realist. It's only the realist at this realm, at this level. And our righteousness, in comparison to the righteousness of you, Elohim, is as filthy rags. This is a day you bring us to consider who we are, what we do, regardless of what we confess and regardless of what we profess from our mouths, what we do, who we are in our minds, what we carry out in our hands and in our actions and in our words. In a world we think we are righteous in, can be so hypocritical. I am chiefest of those hypocrites. And that I am chiefest of those hypocrites relates to all of us who take Sabbath observation, practicality, and functionality seriously. I can't speak for others, but in this moment I speak for what you've been sharing with me. I see, I can talk your righteousness, but I don't always walk your righteousness. I can teach it well, break it down, exegete it, mine it out. But like Paul, I find not anything egregious, just realizing what righteousness really is all about. We don't come close to you. I don't come close to you, and I dare not speak for anyone else. But Father, I, in this moment, through introspection and contemplation and consideration of ways, realize my ways are not like your ways. And quite frankly, though I fuel myself and feed myself with your Torah, with your Tanakh, with the testimonies of your Brit Hadassah, with the ensample of Yeshua's life, my ways are not like your ways. My thoughts, though I fuel them by your word, they're still not like your thoughts because I don't fully, thoroughly, truly understand the brevity and the height and the dynamics of your word that created the world I live in. And I repent for thinking in this realm that I do. That's arrogance on my part. That's hypocrisy, which leads to waywardness that I have had my full share of. And in this conversation with you, this acknowledging of you, all of you, everything that even goes beyond our church theology of you, I throw myself at your feet for your mercy of my self-proclaimed righteousness. We get caught up sometimes thinking we know you, thinking because we can explain you that we better serve you. And in truth, we serve ourselves. I speak for me. This is that day you have made, that humanity understands the life it's playing, and determine whether we really want you or we want our names and our legacies in ways and patterns that this world has already given suggestion to. I repent for every single thing I have ever done, Yahweh. Stuff I've repented for in times past and not tread back on, not return to. Things I've returned to and not acknowledged I returned to. Things that I've said out of anger and felt like I was justifying my position and justified in what I said. I repent for coveting a life that isn't mine and thinking that I really didn't care. I repent not to loathe, not to ruminate, but in my reminiscence, I can't ever excuse myself while teaching about you, lest I become, like Apostle Paul tried to explain to us, a castaway. I must first be partaker. We must first be partakers of your fruit. And if we're not bearing that fruit, then we're not a tree of righteousness. And when we realize things are being spliced into our trunks and fed into our root systems that affect and alter the fruit you prefer we bear, we got to own that. Today, in introspection, every Shabbat is a day of introspection. I see clearer and know now how far away from you we can be, especially when we think we can see. I want to say I curse the knowledge of good and evil. but I can't because it's a tree. It's a fruit you created. Some say it's just a metaphor. I believe it's a real door. And if we don't enter into that door with you as our tour guide, we end up in the wrong way. Today, we just take opportunity to humble ourselves to you, welcome you into our homes, and thank you for not killing us in our sins. Many of the sins we won't even think we've done because we're looking for the big scandal and the big lies and the big fornications and adulteries of the world. And in truth, sin is far more than that. So this prayer is a humbling reminder we don't know what we think we know. You help us. Sometimes we run with what new revelation we get and think we are all of that. We got it together. We know what no one else knows. And to find out we don't know jack. As a matter of fact, the more I learn of you, I realize the less I know of what I think I know. One thing I know for sure, you gave us life. You control life. You can create it. You created the heavens and the earth and all that therein is. And your mercies are very much new every morning. You let us build. You give us free will. Free will doesn't mean we are righteous. Though we can create a path for ourselves because it's our right you gave us. How easy it is for us to become our own God, our own judge, our own executioners, and our own juries. I've done all of that. To my peers, colleagues, family, myself, and even you. Thinking I know how you're going to do what you do is wrong. I bow my head to you in submittance to you. You're not a myth. You're not an idea. You're not a religious brainwashing mechanism to control people. You are the creator of all things for people. We can't see you like many desire proof of scientifically. But science is because of you. Every discovery is an unveiling of more of you. Every invention is a more unveiling of you. My heart repents to you for thinking I know you. and I understand you definitely in all matters doesn't become a loose phrase. But we need you. And sometimes if we don't know quite what to do, we make up ways to express you and to feel you and to try to prove you to other people. That's just as wrong as not knowing you and saying you don't exist. It's equally wrong to say we know you and think we really know you, rather than just follow your instructions because we first believe. You told us that they that come to you must believe that you are Elohim and that you were a rewarder of them that would diligently seek you. And sometimes in seeking you, we can pick up little things and think we understand you. And all we were supposed to do was stand on your word and follow it. You gave us, in the scope of all life, one job. You told us to till the ground. We find ourselves in outer space and we find ourselves trying to take submarines to the base in the basin of the waters, trying to fly in the sky. You told us to till the ground because we discover flight, we discover air pockets, we think we know you. And you gave us one job, and that was to obey you. I personally want to return to obeying you because I don't obey you. Not like I think I do. Yeah. This is not guilt. This is acknowledgement of wrong. Many things I've done, we've all done. But we never recognize as wrong because everybody else is doing it. The fact is, you desire us now to be an example of what is right by your instructions. And we carry those instructions and we don't do them. So those that pray with me now in this moment, I pray we hear as Ruach consistently reminds us of your word, how to comply with you. So I'm grateful for this day, every Sabbath. We're not always keeping it like you want us to. We're going to confess that right now. I do. No matter how well I can teach it, no matter how well we can teach it, or even speak about it, put it in a slideshow, make a PowerPoint presentation, create a sermon behind it. You don't want us just to observe it. You want us to do it. And that's everything in your word. Thank you for this day. It helps me consider my ways. If you have any integrity about yourself, if we have any integrity about ourselves, if I have any integrity about me, we must own our hypocrisies, technically our lies, more importantly, our arrogance, making ourselves gods. I so repent. By the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach that was shed for this very thing, no matter how quantitatively high, no matter at what quality of transgression, that blood never loses its power. I believe that with my heart and my intellect. So I ask you, for those that will, and those of us that have, we lay it all at your feet. By the access of Yeshua HaMashiach, whose blood was shed for the remission of every sin I've just stated and admitted that I am guilty of. Cleanse us. Help us to see the need for your cleansing. Help us to understand the way of your cleansing. Help us to understand the functionality and practicality of that cleansing by your word that you've given us readily available. And that same word, as the blood has been applied as a detergent to abrase us of our error, cleanse us. Whatever the results, whatever the effects, wash us clean, rinse us. Whatever your blood cleanses from us, removes from us, degreases us of, let that water refresh us for the blocked pores in our skin from the grease of sin, from the muck and the mire that we've entered into, willingly, unconsciously, irresponsibly. We are clean by the washing of the water, which is your word. We desire to know it, and by that, have that word swell up in us to cleanse out those pores once clogged by our own form of righteousness, our own mud, our own murkiness. Have mercy. We ask of you sincerely. We don't deserve it, but you've promised it. And you don't lie. And if you kept us alive, then you're not done with us yet. You gave us Shabbat. You gave us the Sabbath. to bring ourselves towards you. Thank you. We believe, Yahweh, you raised Yeshua. Some call him Jesus the Christ. You raised Yeshua from the dead. We now know by your word he sits in your right hand, making intercession for us and for anyone who comes to you with a broken and a contrite heart. And that he ever lives to make intercession for us. Today we ask for a clean slate. Today we ask for a reset. Today we ask for a new start. Today we ask for the bones that have been broken to be healed. Today we ask for a right spirit. Today we ask for a right view. Today we ask to be rehydrated. Today we ask to be rested. Today we ask to be refreshed, redirected. Remind us of your intended purpose of our lives. Filter and fight through all the images we've placed in our mind and convoluted our ways. This is the earnest of our prayer today. We are here to honor you, to obey you, but oftentimes, obeying you, we become mundane and we normalize it without keeping the same fervency about being true to it. And again, I am chief in that regard. Help the fire to be pure and true remain in us all, to why you want us to do what you desire we do, and we not let our own aspirations and inspirations alter your intentions, but by honoring your intentions, you set up our aspirations. You set up our inspirations. You be that. This we pray in this holy day by the name and the finished work of Pesach through Yeshua HaMashiach, the only way to you, Father. Thank you. We know you hear this prayer because it is what you want us to do. Acknowledge you in all of our way, that you in a day like today can direct our path tomorrow and bring us back here 7 days later to reset again. Help us to make the crooked path straight. And be a rebuilder and a restorer of paths that humanity is designed to live in. We talk with you because you talk to us. And we keep tuning you out because we won't open your word. We want to do better. And we admit we need your help because this world comes at us fast and heavy. And the enemy of your faith comes at us in ways we had not contemplated. And we get sucked down that stream and into that ebb and flow and current of that wave of a myriad of temptations. Even just sitting around thinking about anything but you. We ask for your help. To comply with you. This we pray. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. And we say that if you can use anything, matter of fact, only if you want to use us. We want to be prepared that when you do choose, or should you choose, we are what you desire to use, and we're qualified. And we won't try to make our own paths of being used of you, saying it's you, just because we have a few words of you to talk about. But we're not consistent being about. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray, we say, and we thank you. Amen. All right, everybody. It's a joy to be with you today. I hope that you guys are in a place where you can understand his will for your life. Again, today we are here not for likes, but we're here to understand kingdom life. What is it that Yahweh wants us to know? What is it that he would for us to consider? How is it that we operate in him? What does the kingdom life look like? Well, we're going to get going with that. And we're going to cause things to begin to happen in our lives from the word that created our lives. We want you to understand that keeping Sabbath is a very significant thing. Like a huge, huge thing. There's hope in his word. So when people ask you, all right, you talk about Sabbath being so important and so significant, how do you Sabbath, Apostle? What's that look like, Apostle? Can I tell y'all the truth? These passages are very good starters for how to keep Shabbat. But the purpose of keeping Shabbat is not to learn how to do church. The purpose for keeping Shabbat is to learn how to hear Elohim help us to live in a world he made that now runs rampant with the enemy of his faith. And that's why we have to understand that the enemy of his faith isn't our enemy. It's his enemy. Hold on. And because we choose him, we're on his side. So his enemy is throwing at him, and we are dressed in front of him. And that's how you and I are being attacked. The battle really isn't yours. It's not mine. We don't wrestle against the flesh and blood that ignorantly or intentionally is on the side of no faith. But because the enemy of our faith is attacking faith itself, Elohim's instructions. You and I have to be properly clad. That's what Paul tried to explain in Ephesians. So Sabbath helps us to stay dressed. Helmet on, feet shod, sword of spirit, shield of faith, breastplate of righteousness, and your most sensitive areas, your loincloth, gird about you in truth. And if we're dressed that way, and we're brought back in here for inspection each Sabbath day, we walk out as appropriate ambassadors for his kingdom, not my denomination of church, not my preference of theology, but for his kingdom, for humanity to be set up on the earth to represent his kingdom that does exist in heaven, that oversees this earth. But because of free will and Adam's choice, we were thrust into this vacillating between what we think is right and what we think is wrong. And whether we can get away with or discount something or play with it, pity pat with it, gamble with it. Let's learn how to Shabbat. It's real simple. If we learn what Sabbath is about, we will learn why we gather at a church, a building. And if we understand Elohim's intention and we understand his instruction, we will have a far more effective experience when we gather with those of like mind. So today I want to come on and open up a common study, which is a very real study on how to have Elohim moving in our lives for our good. We quote it, but I don't think we understood what he said when he says in Romans 8, all things work together for good to them that love Elohim and to them that are called according to his purpose. The way we learn his purpose is by coming to him the way he has designed. Sabbath is how Adam learned his job was to till the ground. Sabbath is how Adam, the first human being, learned every beast of the field, every creeping thing, every herb, every herd, even what the fish were, and the birds that flew in the air, what the foliage was, what trees were, what fruit and vegetables were. It was in Sabbath he learned how to live on the earth he was designed to till. The irony to me, the intrigue to me, is that in his job, not intentionally, because Elohim does not tempt us, but inside of his job, there was one thing that, if not handled by the instructions of his employer, that one thing had the potential to cause him to lose everything. That's why it was in Sabbath that Yahweh told him, of all these trees here you may eat of. There's the tree of life over there, powerful thing. But then there's also the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat that yet. Don't consume that yet. I want to parentally guide you into that knowledge of balance. Elohim made every good spirit, and Elohim made every evil spirit. And that is balance. So, Adam, I've created you to till the ground. To do that, I'm going to show you all the good you need to accomplish that task. But as creator, I have a thing called balance. And as much good as there is, there's a counter to that good. It's called evil. So don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or else, until I show you how to manage it, you'll be forever disconnected from me, Yahweh, the giver of life, and all the good you're in. It was in Shabbat that instruction was given to Adam. Don't believe me? Let's go see what the writ says. Genesis chapter and number 2, verse 1, tells us what Elohim had begun to do. So let's watch this for the sake of knowing what is here. Genesis 2, verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, Elohim ended his work which he had made. He rested on the seventh day from all of his work which he made, and Elohim baruched, he blessed the seventh day. He sanctified that day, because that in that day he rested from all of his work which he had created and made. Now, to understand that passage with some sense, I want you to see what this looks like from the beginning. So we know that Elohim made the seventh day, but many people who fight with Sabbath keeping never read chapter 1. What? Yes, we did. I'm going to beg to differ. Let's read it again. Without the intention of supporting church doctrine about creation, but with the intention to follow why the Sabbath day is a day of instruction. Now let's look into the writ. Genesis chapter number 1 is where we'll hit now. And we'll start at verse number 1. You know the story. You've heard it read. You've seen it spoken. But follow me on a skim through until we get down to around verse 20, okay? In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. Elohim created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form. The earth was void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. The spirit of Elohim was upon the face of the waters. Now, I want to ask you a question, because we had it come up before in a group and a study, that Elohim made man and then made the earth for man. So I want to be very clear about this. as I press forward here, the Bible says in verse number 1, right here, right next to us, right here, right next to me, it says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, it did not say he created man. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth was without form. The earth was void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. So I want to be very clear as we continue to read this, that Elohim did not create man first. Man is a tool in Elohim's hand to take care of a creation plan that was all his. He architected, he set it up, and we were not just a tool, but we were an afterthought. So there's something about the earth that is important to him. We were created to serve the earth. Now, before you think I'm talking PETA and environmental issues and global warming, I am not. And although you might think you're trying to be literal, I am not. But it is literal. Man was made after the earth was made. And then millions of years after the earth was made, was man then a thought? Let's make man in our image. Because I don't have a man to till the ground. So stay with me in that vein of thought, and let's see how the writ lines up with it. Or let's see how the writ gave us this thought. We're not on Clubhouse today because Clubhouse is glitching. We're not on Clubhouse today because Clubhouse is glitching. And many of you would ask your questions verbally today on Clubhouse. We'll be searching for new audio to do this with for our studies here, so you can have the audible. However, those of you who are in YouTube and Facebook, you can type in your comments or questions, and we'll get to them live. So look here in verse number 1. Again, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, Elohim did not create man. He created the heaven and the earth. Verse 2. The earth was without form, it was void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and Ruach HaKodesh moved upon the face of the waters. Verse 3, Elohim then said, let there be light on the earth, and there was light. Verse 4, Elohim saw the light, it was good. Elohim divided the light from the darkness, and Elohim called the light day for the earth, and the darkness he called night for the earth. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Elohim said, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters covering the earth, and let those waters be divided from the waters to make a firmament for the earth. Verse 7, Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Verse 8, Elohim saw that the firmament called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Elohim said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. Verse 10, Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he the seas. Elohim saw that it was good. Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass. Let the earth bring forth herb yielding seed. Let the earth bring forth fruit yielding trees after its kind, whose seed is in itself. Let that be done upon the earth. And it was so. Verse 12. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were day 3. Verse 14, Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens around the earth to divide the day of the earth from the night of the earth. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light where, y'all? Upon the earth. And it was so. Verse 16. Is there a mention of man here anywhere? Nope, there's not. Verse 16. And Elohim made 2 great lights. The greater light would rule the day. The lesser light would rule the night. He made then stars as well. Verse 17, Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night and to divide the light from the darkness. Elohim saw that it was, you said it, good. So you notice there is no evil being discussed here. Though evil is present, when I would do good, evil is always present. So it's not like evil's not here, but Yahweh is talking about all things he's doing in good. Let me say it again so some of y'all can catch what Paul was trying to help us to see. When I would do good, evil is always present. So if that was true in Paul's case, then while we are in the likeness of Elohim, while Elohim was doing all of this out of good, evil was in fact present. That's a revelation for some of you. I hope it sinks in. Look at verse 16. He made 2 lights, one to rule the day, one to rule the night. Verse 17. And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon what? The earth. And the rule of the day, and to rule over the day, and to rule over the night, and to divide the light from darkness. Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were day 4. Elohim, there's no man yet. But there was all these things here that are being done. Days 1, 2, 3, the herbs and the firmament and the heavens and the lights. They're all for the earth. Verse 20. Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly. Let them bring forth moving creatures that have life. There will be fowl, that they may fly above the earth in the open firmament. Remember, I always tell you that the birds of the heaven were made from the day 5. That means the birds of the heaven were made from the waters. They were created out of the water. The birds, every fowl that you know, every winged creature that flies is made from the waters. Interesting piece of trivia for a lot of people who never read this. He says, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that has life, and bring forth the fowl, that they may fly above the earth in the open firmament of the heaven. Why? Because the firmament is a division of waters. Verse 21, Elohim created great whales, every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly, after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. Elohim saw that it was good. It was good. Day 5 was good. All the days were good. Verse 22, and Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful, day 5 creation, and multiply, day 5 creation, fill the waters, day 5 creation, in the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth, day 5 creation, and the evening and the morning were the 5th day. Verse 24 says, and Elohim then said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after its kind, cattle, and every creeping thing, and the beast of the earth, the beast of the earth after its kind, and it was so. Verse 25, Elohim made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after his kind. Elohim saw that it was good. It was good. When I would do good, evil is what, y'all? Always present. Verse 26, here it is. This is why we're here. So you understand the significance of Shabbat. So you understand the significance of Sabbath. I want you to see how important this day is that we have just run roughshod all over and have disregarded, disrespected, not understood, ill-interpreted, because we have our own way of doing things. Look at how important the day was to the Father and to the first human ever made. Remember, the human was made to make Elohim's praise glorious. The human was made as a tool for the earth. Watch, we do way too much. Some of us thought we were made, some of us thought the earth was made for us. Wow. Do you realize that Elohim cursed the earth? Someone remind me to talk about when Elohim cursed the man. One of you do that, and I'm not sure who that'll be, but moderators, one of you remind me. I want you to hear this. This is why I love Sabbath. Revelation just comes. So I want you to pay attention to what we're reading. Look at what he says here. Verse 26. Remember, the earth is made, and then Elohim makes man. Verse number 26, chapter 1, Bereshit. Elohim said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. Let man have dominion over the fish of the sea that's already been created, over the fowl of the air that's already been created, over the cattle, which has already been created, and over all the earth, which is what this is all about, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he humanity. Male and female created he them. Genesis chapter 5 says, male and female he created he them, and he called their name Adam. Verse 28 says, and Elohim blessed them. He baruch them. Elohim said to them, creations of day 6, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. Subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, human, over the fowl of the air, human, over every single thing that moves upon the earth. Every living thing that moves upon the earth, human. Elohim said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in which is fruit of a tree that yields its own seed. To you it shall be for meat. That word meat is in fact a word H402, something to consume, to devour. It is food. It is also H401, the word okla, which means a ukla, ukal, which is a fancy word, but it means apparently from the word 398, primitive root for something to consume, to dine on, to eat freely, and to eat as a meal. So verse 29 says, Elohim said, I've given you the herbs, every tree in the field, it will be for meat for you. Verse 30, listen, we're talking about Sabbath. Why is Sabbath so important? Why are we misappropriating it? Verse 30 says, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creeps upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for ukla, for meat. Okay? And it was so. And this is what we got to understand. Verse 30 says, Elohim saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Can you type into the chat and tell me what day this is? Right, it's the day 6. So everything about humanity, everything about the earth has already been made. Elohim's masterpiece was the earth. Because even though humanity was the masterpiece of these days of creation, the earth already existed. He created the heavens and the earth before he actually made man. Well, you know that, right? But we put it in wrong context. We act like the earth serves us. According to instructions, we're supposed to be serving the earth the way he says. So days 1 through 6, you just read Genesis chapter 1, indicating what each day did for the earth. Then at the end of Elohim making things, he made humanity and then put humanity over what he made for the benefit of the earth. Now, why is that significant? Day 6 is the day he made man and everything was good. Wait a minute. When he made man, he said, let me back up. Everything is very good. Now let's look. Chapter 1 ends at the finishing of day 6. It doesn't take him 7 days to create. It took him 6. So what was the 7th day for? Well, let's find out, because it bleeds over into chapter 2. Come, let's see what the word says. So in Genesis chapter number 2 now, we find very interesting piece. Thus, because of what you just read in chapter number 6, the heavens and the earth were finished. All the host of the heavens and the earth. And on the 7th day, Elohim ended his work which he had made. Elohim then rested on the 7th day from all of his work which he had made. Elohim then blessed. He baruched the 7th day. You know, I like to think about it this way. Some of you can say it's subjective if you want to, but I think it's right on point. And if you track it out, you'll see that it doesn't take things out of context. But Elohim made the 7th day his office to sit with his employees. Let me show you something. Verse 3, Elohim blessed the 7th day. He sanctified the 7th day because that in that day he rested from all of his work, which Elohim had created and which Elohim had made. Now, that's a very interesting thing, because when we talk about him blessing the day, chapter 2, verse 3, that word blessed, if you look at the screen, those of you who are viewing online, if you look at the screen, you'll see the word blessed on the right-hand side. It is the word we call barak. It is the H1288 index from Strong's. It's a Hebrew word, barak, meaning that in that day, he blessed that day. meaning he kneeled down in that day as an act of adoration from towards Elohim. And it's also an act of adoration by implication to bless Elohim, meaning come into his office, honor him, acknowledge him, adore him, obey him, comply with him, because he's your boss. And vice versa, for Elohim to bless man, to benefit man. As a euphemism, it can also mean on the flip side of the coin, because when good is when I would do good, evil's always present. On the flip side of that coin, it could also mean to be cursed, to come in to have a curse. Whether this is of any significance to you all or not, based on what you understand about the importance of Sabbath. So now look at this and understand what he is saying here. Genesis chapter 2, verse 3, Elohim blessed the seventh day. He's not making anything on the day 7. He's dressing everything on the day 7. He is blessing. That's what it means. He is benefiting man in the 7th day. Then look at the word here in verse 3. It says Elohim blessed the 7th day and he sanctified it. That word sanctify is the word in the Hebrew H6942. If you're watching, look at the screen on the right-hand side under the dictionary there. It will tell you that what Elohim has done is he has Kodesh that day. That word Kodesh means the root word means to causatively make, pronounce, or observe something as clean, whether it be ceremonially or morally. That word Kodesh also means he appoints things, he bids things, he consecrates things, he dedicates things, or in some sense also he can defile things. However, the preference is, and its strongest application is he hallows things, meaning something that is to be kept holy, holier, or is a holy place. Something that you keep, you prepare for, you make proclamations in, you purify within, you sanctify oneself within, you make whole. The whole of that day is Kodesh. So understand chapter 2, verse 3 of the book of Genesis. Elohim Baruch, meaning he blessed the 7th day, then he sanctified. He Kodeshed the 7th day, because that in that day he rested from all of his work, which Elohim created and made. Now, Apostle, people say, why do you always use the definitions in the concordance of the Bible to talk about this? Because if you just hear the writings that Elohim blessed that day, he sanctified that day, you would think sanctification, Kodesh, is only putting water on something and cleaning it. Because that's what you and I have been taught sanctification is, making you clean. But what you must understand is sanctification also implies, amongst other things, the maintenancing of the thing that got cleaned. How do you maintenance the thing that got cleaned? You have to follow the instructions of how it got cleaned by who cleaned it. So if you and I are sanctified by him, he cleaned us. And now he's trying to tell us how to remain clean. And that's why sanctification, the word Kodesh, means holy. It means instructions. Look at it again, putting it on the board for you to see it for some sense of good clarity. That word Kodesh, it means, right to your right-hand part of the screen, look at the definition, the dictionary, Strong's dictionary, Strong's indexing. The word is Kodesh. It means to make, pronounce, or observe as clean. To appoint, to bid, to consecrate, to dedicate, to make holy, to keep holy, to prepare, to proclaim, to purify. That means you are getting instructions in that day. You are getting instructions in that day. You are getting instructions in that day. What day? The seventh day. Why? Because day 6, he put everything else together for us to see what needs to be done, but what we need to, what we're going to be over, but how to be over it, what it is, how to clean it, how to maintenance it, how to keep it, how to proclaim it. He put all of that in day 7. That's why when we come into day 7, you should be doing what Isaiah said in Isaiah 58, 13 through 14. And Yahweh has told you in Exodus 20, Exodus 16, all throughout the passages, and many of these units we're going to help you see, from Exodus 16 to Exodus 20 to Isaiah 58 to Mark 2 to Hebrews chapter 4. He's telling us what we are to do. The seventh day is not a day of creation. It's a day for creation. It's a day you are learning how to handle, maintenance, and do your job about creation. Wow. So let's look at this a little bit deeper so you know how to and the importance of Sabbath. Verse 3 goes on again to say, Elohim baruch the seventh day, he sanctified it because that in it he rested from all of his work which Elohim had made. So what he does in day 7 is he has this next conversation with Adam. Look at verse 4. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that Yahweh our Elohim made the heavens and the earth, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh our Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. So this is Elohim really conversing with Adam in the seventh day, giving him the history of the third rock from the sun. Verse 5 says, every plant of the field before it was in the earth, every herb of the field, even before it grew, Elohim was telling him about it. For Yahweh our Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the earth. And he's letting him know, and there was not a man to till the ground. So that means that the earth was functioning and operating before Elohim actually put man on it. Verse 6 says, but there went up a mist from the earth, and it watered the whole face of the ground. And Elohim formed man of the dust of the ground. Elohim breathed into man's nostrils what is known as the breath of life, and humanity became a living soul. Look at verse 8. And Yahweh our Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man who he had formed. So let's look at this word Eden, and I'll come back to it in a second. The word Eden, okay, Eden, if you want to call it that, is the region of what this Bible scholars would say is Adam's actual home, which sort of is not the case. Well, you're going against the concordance. Let me show you what we mean. The word 5730 is also the word Eden, and that word means, it comes from the word 5727, which would indict pleasure, something that's delicate. All right. You can also find out what that means in the word 1040. So Hebrew word 1040 is the word Beth Eden. All right, which means a house of pleasure. All right, which some of you are going to look at and they say now a place in Syria. Right. But 1004 comes from the word 5730, which is where we just were, Aden. Right. But the word 527 now gives you Adam. Figuratively, a place that is to be soft or pleasant. It is reflexive. It is a place that you live voluptuously. And it is a place where you delight yourself. So this Eden is connected to Adon, which is connected to Beth Adon, which means, in fact, a place to live. It is a soft place. It is a pleasant place. It is a place to live voluptuously. Wow. And there, verse 8, let me read verse 8 again. Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden. And there he put the man who he formed. So the man he formed wasn't living in Eden. And since he mentioned it was on the east side, man had to be made on the west side. Verse 9, out of the ground made Yahweh to grow every tree that's pleasant for sight, good for food. The tree of life was also in the midst of the garden. Notice this conversation is happening in day 7, y'all. Just take you back up to day number 4, and just to take you back to verse number 1. This is day 7, verse 2. On the 7th day, he ended his work. 3, he blessed the 7th day. 4, we're talking about the generations of the heavens. We're talking about the generations of earth. So by the time you get down to verse 9, he's still in day 7 telling Adam everything he had done. Verse 9, out of the ground made Yahweh to grow every tree. He told him that there was the tree of life. He told him there was a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then he says, and there is a river that went out of Eden to water the garden. And from thence it was parted, and it became into 4 heads. The name of that first is Pison. It was also which compasses all around the whole land of Havalia, where there is gold. The gold of that land is good. There is Bedulum. There is onyx stone. The same as the name of the second river was Gihon. And the same of it compassed the whole land of Ethiopia. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. It goes out towards the east where you see Assyria, and the 4th river is Euphrates. Now, look at verse 15. You're still talking about day 7. Somebody say, this is day 7. We're talking about day 7. We're talking about day 7. We're talking about day 7. That's correct, Timothy Johnson. So until y'all type up that, I'm going to answer Timothy Johnson's question that I just saw. I think it's a question. Timothy Johnson says, Apostle, so man was made for the earth, and the Sabbath was made for man to rest from his work on the earth and get instructions. Let me add to that, Brother Timothy, and to get instructions for how to do his job when he works on the earth. Boy, did we screw this up. Let's continue. Brother Timothy, let me know you got that. So now look at this. Pay attention, Zion. Verse 15. So Yahweh took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden. Look at this, y'all. To dress it. What does that word mean, to dress it? The word dress here is the word abad. Look at this. The primitive word means to work. In any sense, by implication, it means to serve. So let's read verse 15 properly if we're going to take this definition out and use it rightly. Verse 15, Yahweh took the man, put him in the Garden of Eden to work, to serve the garden. The man was technically enslaved to that work. He put him there to be a bondman, to be a bond service, to compel, to do, to dress, to execute, to be a husbandman, to keep, to labor there, to bring something to pass. What would you bring to pass? I don't know. How about an instruction? To make, to serve, to become, to be a servant, to do, to service, to be a tiller, to set a work, to be wrought. Wrought means to work. To be a worshiper. Worship here means to obey instructions. So when you understand this word, which many of you have never looked up, the word for to till, the word to dress is the word abad. So when you read verse 15, now you say, Yahweh our Elohim took the human, put him in the Garden of Eden, the voluptuous place, to serve it. And to keep it. Well, let's look up the word keep. The word keep is shamar, which means to hedge about it. with thorns. So to keep it meant to protect it, to guard it, generally to protect it, to be ward, to be circumspect, to take heed, to be a keeper of it, to mark it, to look narrowly upon, observe, preserve, regard, reserve, save, be sure with it, and be a watchman. I hope this hits different for some of y'all. So the real purpose for Elohim making man, once he made man, he made the earth, and then Elohim made an office, more importantly with day 7. But what he did was he made a garden eastward in Eden. Now, many of y'all might not understand that, but when he says eastward in Eden, have we been looking for the wrong element about Eden? I'm going to get in trouble with a whole lot of theologians. When he said look at the passage, look at the passage, look at the passage, look at the passage, look at the passage. It's going to hit different. Look at the passage. Verse 8. Everybody go to verse 8. Look at it. We'll go back to 16 in a second, but look at verse 8. Yahweh our Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden. I'm going to say it again. He planted a garden eastward in Eden. You now know Eden is a voluptuous place. So if he planted a garden eastward in Eden, is Eden an actual city? And if eastward, meaning he made man more west, brought him and placed him in a garden on the east side of Eden, is Eden a garden or is Eden the Adoma? The Garden of Eden was a garden. Elohim started the work he wanted man to do, but Eden, I'm concerned, is all of the Adoma, because he made man out of the dirt. He put man in a garden of a voluptuous place. Get it? Eden is a voluptuous place, but there's a garden in a voluptuous place. We are making it say that Eden was the garden, but the garden was in Eden. So the problem is, what was the place? What was Eden? Is Eden the ground? Is that why he cursed the ground for man's sake? He cursed the body of the woman. He cursed the body of the serpent, but he cursed the ground from responding to the man, because where the man's foot would trod, Eden would turn into this garden man was set to propagate and to till and to serve and to expand. And that's why when he got kicked out of the garden, Yahweh sent him over into still Eden, but it was a dry and thistle part that if Adam ever trod over there with that blessing on him before his failure, that dry thistle land would turn into the garden that you saw in Eden. And we've been looking for a garden in Eden. Because we thought Eden was a city. Eden is the earth, the ruddy part that gives us trees and fruit and vegetation and herbs and herds and cattle. That's what man is here to do. And Eden is voluptuous. And yes, could it be Egypt? Not Egypt. Could it be where Israel is? It could be. But the issue is we need to stop focusing on Eden being a city as understanding Eden, the garden. Could it be Israel? The garden. Could it be that voluptuous place over there? That dirt is so rich and so could that be the first place where the garden of Elohim was planted? Mind you, Elohim planted a garden in Eden. Adam fell. Yahweh then cursed the ground and told Adam, now you go make your own garden in the thorny and thistle place. So the Garden of Eden that Elohim planted, could that be the region that we now find, which is Israel? Why it's such a holy place? Because that's the plan. That's the garden Elohim planted. Because the garden man planted, he put him out of the garden. He didn't put him out of Eden. He put him out of the garden of Eden. Are y'all following this? So this is why day 7 is so important, because he gives us his instructions on what it is he wants done. He put him in the garden to till it. So we made a mistake of thinking that Eden was a city. There were no cities then. Come on, just think for a minute. There were no cities. There wasn't a group of people living on the planet. Contrary to what some would say, there was other people on the planet. Elohim made Adam. He was the first one. In him was male and female. He then made a garden in Eden. Eden being voluptuous. Is not this earth voluptuous? Is not the ruddy Adoma, not the waters from day 5, but the day 6 dirt on the Eret? See, the world, let me say this to y'all now. The world is the word Eretz, earth, the water, the dirt, and everything. But specifically, man was brought down not to rule the waters on the Eretz, but to rule the Adoma on the Eretz. That's the dirt part. That's the visible, physical dirt that is not covered by water on the Eretz, the earth. So the Adoma is the ruddy ground, which is why we're called Adam, the ruddy ground. And so when Yahweh took the ruddy ground, that's why he said, as long as the Eretz remains, there will always be seed time and harvest. And you can't plant seed, as it were, for our task in the water. You have to plant seed in the Adoma. We looking for a city. We keep thinking we understand Elohim because we don't take our time to read it. He planted a garden in Eden. He didn't say he planted a garden in Israel. He didn't say he planted a garden in Africa, though that may be the region. He did not say he planted a garden in Philadelphia. But let's put that in context. If he planted a garden in Philadelphia, then the garden wasn't the city. If he planted a garden in Israel, then the garden wasn't the city. If he planted a garden in Africa, then the garden wasn't Africa. It was a garden in it. So Eden, having no counterpart city, no region to contend with, though chapter number 2, verses 4 through 15 give us an understanding of rivers that broke out from there into Euphrates and Pison and Gihon, those are showing areas where water would gather around parcels and territories of Adoma. All of that was Eden. And there was a garden in Eden. Sabbath showed us in day 7, if you listen to the conversation of chapter 2, in day 7, Sabbath shows us that Elohim created a garden. Then chapter 3 shows man not compliant to instruction, and the earth is told to stop producing for man the way I told you to. And now that man thinks he's got knowledge, let him make his own garden. What you say? So we've been trying to be theological and seminaric about trying to identify a place when wherever your foot trod, based on how you follow the instructions of Elohim, you can create the garden. Do y'all understand this? If we have the word, follow the instructions, where our feet trod on the earth, Elohim's will, because of us tilling the ground, can be done. Why do you think, listen, why do you think Abraham could find water anywhere he went? Why do you think Itzhak, his son, could find water anywhere he went? Watch this. Why do you think Jacob, Israel, son of Itzhak, son of Abraham, all three of them are patriarchs of the faith. They are in the hall of faith because they followed the word of Elohim, and wherever their foot went, they prospered on the Adoma. Even when they were made to do it against their will, that empowerment, that dew of heaven was on them. This now culminates in Yeshua HaMashiach. Do y'all remember the story of Yeshua having the people sit around waiting while he was teaching? Y'all not talking to me on Facebook. Y'all not talking to me, and nobody is talking to me. I don't, okay. It's okay. Let me try to make it make sense. Yeshua is on the earth. He is man with the seed of the word in him. And wherever you carry the word, it will create. Wherever you carry the word and you speak it, it's a seed. Wherever you carry the word, it will create in the composite that ignites creation. The potential is the seed, but every seed, the word, has to go into the earth, germinate from that place, gestate from that place, and then create voluptuously whatever the intention of that seed was. This works both negatively and positively. Are y'all learning? We've been going about this all wrong. And I'm not trying to say the Bible is wrong. It's not what I'm saying. Our intellect got in the way. And really, intellect, I'll say our generally, maybe not so much yours or mine, but intellect gave us a template and a construct that we just came into, our Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Wesleyan, whatever, and we began to master that construct, though the construct was created and brought forward in apparently some level of error. And not an intentional, but because we were going about making our own righteousness, humanity. And because we're looking for a city called Eden, we missed that we should have been looking for the garden. And Eden is wherever you put your foot. Here's why we can say that affirmatively. Because of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. No matter where Avraham went, he prospered. No matter where Yitzhak went, he prospered. No matter where Jacob went, he prospered. No matter how much he lost, he could make spotted cattle look whole. He can make whole cattle look spotted. He could pour water in a dry land. Yeshua, listen, sitting on a seashore, he did this 3 times. Twice you read about, a third is really, really, really considered. But the 2 that we know of for a fact was he pulled fish and loaves of bread and fed 3,000 and 5,000 on different occasions. And you got to understand, he was able to call this out on the earth. Watch. Yeshua, and this word is so deep. He gave Peter a word. And I always would wonder, okay, I get the miracle and the wow factor for what happened when Yeshua told Kepha to go in the boat, to go into the boat, and the first fish that jumps up on the hook, open its mouth. And in there, you'll find the gold enough for your taxes and mine. Now, when you sit and you study the word to make yourself approved unto Elohim, and be not ashamed after you've read his word, but you are able to rightly divide the words of truth. You realize that we do in Christendom create our own righteousness, and we do way too much. The word of Elohim is quick, it's powerful, it's sharper than any two-edged sword. If you got faith the grain the size of a grain of a mustard seed, the word in you can move a mountain. It didn't say water, but it can move a mountain. Another passage said it can move a tree. So the word of Elohim for the human being is an active element. But when Elohim let us experience Yeshua along with Moshe, who spoke to a rock, and water came out, along with not countless others, but specific others who have used the word in the earth to make a way out of no way. Yeshua draws gold from a fish's mouth, but he gave a word to Kepha, and Kepha followed the instruction of that word to the manifestation of that promise. We got so much to understand, so much to see, and so much to do. And when you sit in Sabbath, Yahweh can give you the instructions for all that it is and all that it can be. This is significant. This is utterly important. So the seventh day is how we learn how to use the word to plant in the world so we can create a garden. Eden is voluptuous. The earth is voluptuous. That's why the enemy don't want you to ever speak the word of Elohim. Think about this. What happened when Moshe found the burning bush? Does anybody know what Yahweh told him to do about his clothes? If you do, type it in. I'm gonna wait a second, and I'll go somewhere else while you make your typings. Now, don't y'all go try to teach this and preach this, because you still got to put everything in proper context and with proper vetting and with proper material from the writ, not from someone's commentary that creates appropriately that which the revelation points to. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Apostle Walker. Thank you, Elder Rogers. Thank you, Matisha. Thank you, Patricia Marcus. Thank you, KB. Thank you, Pastor Tally. Everybody says Yahweh told Moshe to take off his shoes. Let me help y'all with gardening as a person who's owned several gardening companies. Now, some of y'all will laugh at me when I say this because of the way we've been nurtured and cultured across the entire globe. It's not just America. And because of the way we in Christianity have so many in our, construct of faith, we have so many arguments and debates and who's right and who's wrong and new methods and, men, women can't preach, prophecies ain't real. There's a new method or a proper method of baptism, whatever. But I want y'all to think about it. Do you ever wonder. Let's talk about gardening. I want to focus your mind on gardening, 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 gardening. When Elohim in chapters 1, 2, when chapters 2 and 3, when Elohim placed man in the garden, man was to till the ground. The part that would touch the ground effectively, many of you would say because of the anatomy of humanity, because of the anatomy of humanity, many of you would say, well, the hand, the palm, and the base, the soles of the feet are, nerve endings. And that's what we do. They're nerve endings in your hands, so that's no big thing. Everybody's got nerve endings in their feet and their hands, and that's just the way God made the human body, and he did. But without being in a conspiracy theory, I want y'all to think about this. When Elohim told man to leave the garden, chapter 3, we'll read it in a second. And maybe I should read it now, but then I'll lose my thought. I won't lose it, but I'll be taking a different route. So here's the point. I'll say it to you, and then we'll go read it, and we'll talk about it more. When the palms of your hands and the inner of your hands, that skin, that skin, and the palm and the soles of your feet are the same. Nerve endings immensely. That is so correct. But I went walking on the beach with my feet uncovered and touching the earth. And I promise you, I know weight disbursement on sand and beaches. But something struck me, and I recorded it on my phone. As many times as I've walked the beach, I'm in Atlantic City, Cape May, certain places in Myrtle Beach in Virginia, in Florida, Clearwater, all over the place. Whether I'm in some islands or whatever, I've walked beaches. I never paid attention to the fact that when your feet touch that sand, that yes, there is a dispensing of weight that makes a layer of the sand move by the indenting of your body weight in that patch of dirt. But I recorded it, and I keep looking at it, that every time my foot hit that dirt lit up. It literally turned white. There was an impact that my weight did on dirt, but it was almost as if, and y'all think I'm weird. I'm sorry. I don't apologize for this, but I know how some of you can take it if you think I'm being too deep. It's almost as if there's a communication. When your feet hit that earth. And there is a process. Okay, Apostle, I see you on there. There is a process called grounding that is out there. I don't like to give in to conspiracy theories, but when I'm doing something and I saw it and I wasn't looking for it, and I did it when I was angry, I was upset at something. As a counselor, I get a lot of problems put in my head and my hearing to help counsel people through. It doesn't mean I don't take those things into my own person, because I care about the person I'm counseling and the situations that they're in. And I can take those things to God in prayer. I'm like, Father, this angers me. This frustrates me. And then that day I took a matter and went walking on the beach, and it was heavy on my heart. But when I happened to look down, how you have your head down and you're walking, and I'm looking down at my feet, and my feet are touching the ground, and these white patches are all around my foot. And every time my foot went down, the earth around it lightened. It didn't give. I get displacement. It lightened. And I guess that is it giving, technically, but it didn't do that. So I'm now in my deep self, understanding the deeper things of God. Right? I'm remembering Yahweh told Moshe to take off his shoes. I'm remembering that Yahweh cursed the ground for Adam's sake. Watch this. And when he curses the ground for Adam's sake, Adam is upright walking. But then he tells Adam, you're going to create this garden not by walking, but by getting your hands in the dirt. You're going to make your own garden by the sweat of your brow and the work of your hands. Whereas Adam's job to till the ground wasn't that he was to bend down and bow down to the dirt. It was that he would walk on the dirt. These two skin types on your body communicate. When I touch my hands, there's a communication. When I touch someone in pain, hugging does things. So before you think I'm trying to be spiritualist here, let me back up, Father, to keep this in Torah. I can't unsee what I saw. I can't unfeel what I experienced. My anger, for that matter, while conversing with the Father about the matter in confidence, so that, as a counselor, when I got done, not only did I have a resolution by the time I ended up walking the length of that beach twice, I walked up and walked down. By the time I got done walking it, no, it was 3 times, letting the water hit me, enjoying it in part, going back to the thought. Then I started focusing for in between. I'm like, each time I do this in certain, the ground lights up under me. I'm about 60 years old. I never noticed that. I noticed it, but didn't notice it, didn't understand it. But now that you're older, you start understanding certain things. I'm like, okay, well, Yahweh, that's now why I see he cursed the ground so that the ground would not communicate with Adam's foot. And that's why in Psalms, Moshe said, every place your foot would trod, you would tread on the line and that tread on, tread on, tread on. Then we have this thing in America where we have this concept where we talk about, don't tread on me. Like you have this serpent saying, don't tread on me. That's a problem for us. Don't tread on me. When Yahweh says in the correcting of a problem, Yahweh tells the body of the woman and tells the serpent that he's going to put seed in a woman who will now be able to tread on the head of the serpent, who is symbolic for giving over to evil, which caused the curse, because Yahweh knows he's going to cut the earth off from responding to man on his footprint, but he will be able to respond to man on his handprint and the sweat of his brow. Are y'all finding this anywhere near close to interesting? So when I'm thinking on Moshe, Yahweh tells him, take your shoes off, because this ground you're on is holy ground. Mind you, Yahweh has not yet lifted the curse of Adam's sin. He does lift the curse when Yeshua comes, that the earth does not respond the same way it did because of Adam's fall. But now you and I wear rubber-soled shoes. We wear shoes. We don't touch the ground. Now we got concrete and asphalt going up everywhere. And that's why we're out of touch with the earth. We're out of touch with the purpose for why we were made. Now, not only that, I owned two lawn care, not grass cutting, lawn care companies. And whenever my hands was doing what we call an install, meaning taking up trees, planting trees, taking up gardens, planting gardens, my hand has to be in that dirt. When I'm caring for the bougainvillea, when I'm praying, caring for removing the moss, putting in fern, taking up fern beds. When I'm doing all this stuff, putting in, yeah, we did begonias and we did the pansies, and we did the variegated hedges and the laburnum, the ligustrum. We did ligustrum and viburnum. We did all that stuff, and I never got all the time. My hand was in that dirt, setting it, grading it, measuring it out, putting it in, getting it rich, getting it fertilized. Revelations just come. Nah, I know y'all think I'm being deep, scare some of y'all away. But I wonder why older people start taking up and don't understand why they enjoy gardening. Oh, it's just take passing time. They get up, they get down, they get their bodies active. Yeah. So when Yahweh curses the ground for Adam's sake, no one's talking about that. He curses the ground. He takes the woman, he curses her body. He takes the serpent, curses his body. But he curses the ground for Adam's sake. So that the ground doesn't respond to Adam the way Elohim made man as a tool for the ground to create this kind of garden on the earth. Elohim wanted man to till for him. And so now he says, since you got knowledge of good and evil and you think you know, you go over there and with your hands and the sweat of your brow and on your bent back, that's how you're going to bring anything close to what I gave you. It's almost as if he short-circuited. Because you're technically dirt. That's all you are. We are dirt. We are dirt. That's why the first man's name was Adam, because he is Adoma. Adoma is the ready dust, dirt, ash of the ground. From dust you are, to dust you shall return. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, earth to earth. We are just mud pies walking. What makes us walk? The word. So if the word makes the mud walk, then the word is giving the instructions for the mud mass to move and to be productive. How did we miss it? That is why Elohim gives us the seventh day. Zion, many of you might not appreciate the way that I study, but we are in the writ. And let's look at what he says in Genesis, chapter number 2, verse 8 again. And Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. Now the ground he made to grow. Out of the ground he made to grow. Verse 10, the river went forward. Verse 11, the first Pison. Verse 12, gold was in that land. Verse 13, name of the word river was second was Gihon. 14, name of the third was Hiddekel. 15, Yahweh then took man. Listen, Yahweh then took man and put him in the garden of Eden. To dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh, who is our Elohim, commanded man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat. Of every tree of the garden. You may freely eat. Of every tree. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it, for in the day that you eat it, you will surely die. Meaning you will be disconnected from that which gives you life. And that, my brothers and sisters, makes more sense to me in understanding that in the day that you eat of that tree, you shall surely die. Die, death, does not mean your body languish and perish. It means you will be disconnected from the source of life. So when Elohim cursed the ground, he kept his promise. Ah! Oh my. Wait a minute. I didn't just see that just happen in front of my eyes like that, just like that. Yahweh never lied. Yahweh never lied. Verse 17. Yahweh commanded the man, saying, of every tree in the garden you may freely eat. 17. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that you eat of that tree, you shall surely die. Now let's look at the word die so we're not crazy and goofy, but watch it. The word die here in the Hebrew is the word muf, mean die, causatively to kill, be crying, to be dead, as a dead body, a dead man, a dead one, put to worth of death, to destroy, to cause to be like, or to must, to die, to kill, to necromance. Necromancing is a concept of communication. And then dispensing that communication is a spiritual thing. And we took just move to mean to physically die, as in by death, to die as a physical being, pulchritude, no longer having life in it. But the communication is very key. Now, watch this before y'all get too deep and think we've lost our minds. Verse number 17. But the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in that day you shall surely die. Verse 18, Elohim said, it's not good for man to be alone. I'll make him a helpmeet. Okay? Out of the ground, Yahweh formed every beast of the field. We're in day 7. We're still in day 7. We're still in day 7. And in day 7, Elohim tells him from verses 4, the generations of the heavens and the earth. Verse 8, why he put this garden here. Verse 10, 12, 11 through 15, about the rivers and how they work, they flow, what you can follow to get your way back here. Verse 17, he tells him about the tree, all the trees. Verse 18, he says it's not good for you to be all one, all alone. I'm going to make you a helper. I'm going to make you a helpmeet. Look at what he says now. He says, and out of the ground, Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air. He brought them unto Adam in day 7. All of this is happening in day 7. Somebody say in day 7, say the 7th day. All of this is happening in the seventh day. And out of the ground, Elohim formed the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air. He brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. Now, y'all think that he means Adam looked at them and wondered what to call them. That Adam. He brought them to Adam to see what Adam would call them. This is not like, Adam, what you going to call them? This is him telling Adam, this is what you're going to call them. Because this is what they are. Elohim made these, not Adam. So the word see here is the word ra'ar, means literally or figuratively to, in a numerous application, to direct or imply transitively and intransitively, and as well as causatively, to advise, to self, to appear, to approve. See, Adam came to approve what Elohim called him, to behold what Elohim had called them. to consider, to discern, to make, to enjoy, to have, experience, to gaze upon, take heed to, look on, mark, meet, perceive, present, regard, respect, for cause, to show. So when we look at this word, we got to understand what the potential of this means. He says, in Adam was told to see unto them, verse 19, into the and out of the ground, Yahweh or Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and he brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. So when we talk about called, that's the word kara. Now it's funny because the word see is the word rara. But the word called is the word kara, which means, in fact, through an idea of accosting, to call out something, to address something by name. To call unto. So he has to be told what to call it, because he's discerning what it is. He's in Ara. He is seeing what it is. Literally, figuratively, he's being directed. Literally, he is being advised. He is approving what he is going to call out. He's also in discernment of what he's going to call it. What does discern mean? Yahweh is telling him what it is. He's discerning that that's it, and then he rarars, and then he korars it. Okay, you got to understand this. So now, in verse 19, Adam, to see what he would call them, part B, and whatever Adam called every living thing, there it was, right? That was the name of it thereof from that point forward. Verse 20, Adam gave names to all the cattle. Now, him giving names does not mean he made them up. This is what day 7 does for you. Yahweh tells you what it is. Adam gave names to all the cattle and all the fowl of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam, there was not found what he was out there naming. He didn't have a mate. There was no meat found for him. Verse 21, Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. He slept, took one of the ribs, closed up the flesh thereof instead. Somebody say, this is the 7th day. This is the 7th day. Say it. This is the 7th day. Verse 22, and the rib which Yahweh took, he formed a man. From the man, he made a woman, brought her unto the man. Verse 23, Adam then said, in the 7th day, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, and she was taken out of man. This was the 7th day. This was the 7th day. This was the 7th day. She was taken out of man. This was the 7th day. Therefore shall man, because of this, now that I've made this in the 7th day, telling you what you need to call these things you are now responsible for, I'm pulling out of you what's in you so you can see it while you're resting on the 7th day. That's why verse 21 is so important. And Yahweh caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. Somebody say he put him to sleep. He put him to rest. Pardon me. Say he put him to rest. This is the 7th day's function, to put you to rest and pull out of you what's needed once your task takes on dynamics that have changed, and see you are not able to do them alone. Even though you accept the charge, Yahweh knows what's best for you. He knows what's best for you. He put Adam to rest, verse 21. Verse 22, he took that rib, made a woman. Verse 23, Adam now wakes up in the 7th day. He wakes up in the 7th day and says, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called womb man, because she was taken out of man. Well, how did he know that? Again, Elohim is telling him in the 7th day what's being done. Therefore, because of this, here's an instruction. Here's an instruction. Adam again is in Arar state. He is in Arar and Karar state. He is discerning what this womb man and his interaction with them and they with him should be. Therefore, because of this, how this was done, man once they start having children, man will leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife. They shall be one flesh. They were both now naked, the man and his woman, and they were not ashamed. Then we read in verse 3, somebody say that was what was done in Sabbath. Somebody say now Sabbath is over in that passage, not in life. So Sabbath is no longer being discussed in chapter number 3 until a certain part. Well, there's a chronological leap here. Let me be very clear with this. So I'm saying Sabbath is done, but this whole passage in 3 is in fact another Sabbath experience, but weeks, months, years, however long later. This is another seventh-day Sabbath, when Yahweh is coming down to talk to Adam, and Adam is nowhere to be found. So Yahweh, not that he don't know where Adam is, he's like, Adam, where you at? You're supposed to be in a certain mindset on this day to see me. What are you doing? Why aren't you where we usually meet? See, the seventh day is like an office setting in the spirit realm for our Creator and his creation to come and meet with him. Even the animals know to sit their butts still in the Sabbath day. Just us. We the ones doing way too much. So look at what he says here in Genesis chapter 3. So we leave Genesis 2, which is all about Sabbath. How did you miss that whole chapter being about Sabbath? In Sabbath, you learn, watch this, you learn your job. You learn the history of why he made you. You learn how the waters work so you can get back and forth and get your GPS system. That whole 10 through 15 is about GPSing. So you know to travel this body of water, you'll get here. This is what's over there. Then from that on, he tells you what else he made for you to take rule over. He calls it, brings it into you, gives you its inventory name, tells you what to call it so it dominates, so it understands your voice as the dominant voice in the earth. That's what he does. That's why man had to karar it as he was aurar it, because Yahweh was giving him discernment, telling him what it was, but he had to speak it out because that's what put order and dominance or dominion for mankind in the earth over those elements. Now, the next thing you see in chapter number 2 is everything is about that, because in chapter 2, he puts man to sleep. In the Sabbath, he puts man to rest. And then he pulls out of man while he's resting. Robosha. He pulls out of man while he's resting what man would need to go to work from here. So that's why if you don't sit down in Sabbath and go to rest with Elohim, he can't pull out of you what's already in you. You're already well equipped to handle anything in your life. But if you don't go to rest where he can put you to sleep per his instructions, meet me here so I can put you to sleep and pull out of you or pour into you what you will need going forward with the assignment I've given you. So the seventh day has been talked about and has been admonished to be done and kept since the inception of the first human being. Day 1. The seventh day is day 1 of man's assignment. That's his day 1. That's the first day he showed up for work. And the first day you meet with the Father so you know the direction that you're going to be going in. As a manager for my career, you have to let the people know where we're going. Thus, this correlates with the biblical concept of writing the vision on the wall so they that see it may run therewith and accomplish and get it done. I paraphrase, but that's exactly what it means. So in this concept, this was never lost in this concept. This concept was never lost in this inaction, in this engagement, in this conversation piece. He is telling his son, he puts him to sleep in the seventh day, gives him instructions that this is also in, this came out of you. Okay, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Right. And from here forward, you two are to act like you're still one. So therefore, shall a man leave his father and his mother once he's born, she's born, and cleave to their spouse. And they're to act like one. Because this is the instructions, the types of instructions Yahweh gives when you come into Shabbat and you sit down and you let him put you to sleep. So he can pull out of you. When you stop working, and you repose and desist from work on the seventh day, Yahweh pulls out of you resources you didn't even know were in you. When Adam woke up, he didn't know technically that there was a real resource in him. He just knew he was entity, but Yahweh pulls out his greatest resource, pulls out humanity's greatest resource, and that is the womb man. Now, they can't function without each other. One can't do it without the other. Now, we've tried it because we got knowledge of good and evil, but, you know, the two of them have to be together. And that's how you have effectiveness in the tilling of the ground. So when Elohim puts us to sleep in the Sabbath, when he puts us to rest in the Sabbath, he pulls out of us. And while he's pouring out of us, he's pouring into us. But we so busy going to church, trying to stay awake so we can shout and praise him, so we can get his presence. He don't want that presence like that on the seventh day. He wants you quiet in front of him, digging into his word, just like you just saw. This is how revelation comes, through you sitting down, reading his word quietly and allowing him to speak from his word what he wants you to speak in his world. And when you know better, you'll do better. So look at chapter 2 as day 7 personified. He completely envelops man in that day. He informs man in that day, and then he sends man out. Now we skip to chapter 3. Somebody say chronological leap. Chronological leap. So chapter 2 to chapter 3 is a chronological leap, but it will reference activity on a seventh-day Sabbath. Let's look at this. Y'all never really pay attention to this until someone takes the time to slow it down and bring it to your attention knowledgeably, rightly, with proper definitions and understanding. Chronological leap. Come on, I see y'all. All right, good. Now watch this. Watch number 1, chapter 3, verse 1. Watch what it says. Very clear. He says, now, you see a leap from chapter 2 about the seventh day. Now you're jumping to chapter 3. Verse 1 picks up in a story that's already started. Now, the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh our Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath Elohim said that you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. We may eat of of every verse 1. The serpent was subtle. Yahweh, the serpent was now. Let me start over. Let me drink. Sorry, guys. Starting over. Chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which Yahweh our Elohim had made. And he said unto the womb man, yea, hath not Elohim said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? The woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the tree of the fruit of the fruit of the tree, which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim said, you shall not eat it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. The serpent said unto the woman, you shall not surely die. For Elohim does know, verse 5, he does know this day that the day you eat of that, your eyes shall be open. You will be as gods. That word there is the word Elohim. It is a plurality of it. But this word for God here is also a plural of the word Eloi. Okay, which is from 4010. It means a God. So you have a deity, and then you have like a master. Okay, so this word is El, right? It means of strength. You will have strength. You will be mighty. All right. You will be strong. You will have power. Right. So verse number 5 says, and for Elohim, creator of heaven and all the earth, knows that in the day that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, strong ones, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and she ate, and it was pleasant for eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof. And she did eat, and she gave also unto her husband who was with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. Watch what they did. They sewed fig leaves together. They made aprons. And verse 8 says, here it is, and they heard the voice of Yahweh, our Elohim, walking. They heard the voice of Yahweh, our Elohim. Somebody say that's Adonai. They heard the voice, that's Adonai, of Yahweh. That's Adonai. The voice of Yahweh is Adonai. They heard the voice of Yahweh, our Elohim, walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh our Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. They hid themselves. They were expecting him, but they were not in the place where he would be looking for them. Verse 9 says, Yahweh our Elohim called unto Adam and said, where art thou? Now, if he knows where they are, if Elohim knows where they are, why would he be saying, where are you? You know what he was really saying? Who you with, Adam? You're moving funny. You smell different. Where you at? It ain't that he don't see Adam with them fig leaves on him. It's not that he don't see Ishai right with him with them fig leaves on. He's like, where you at, man? Where your head at, bro? See, the reason I can talk like this about Adam is because this is me so many daggone times. I had that conversation with Elohim today. He had to ask me, where you at, Jones? I'm like, Father, I don't even really want to, I just, what I'm trying to say is, and then, right, because, right, what happened, because what, and then so, right, all right, anyway. Where you at? Where you at, Adam? Who you with? I know you know where you're supposed to be. Last time I hooked you up, I do it all the time, but I gave you everything you needed. Where you at? Why are you not where we supposed to be meeting at? Where your head at, bro? What you got on? Where you at, Adam? I can see you, but where you at? We supposed to be over here. I don't cater to you. You cater to my need, and my need is that you meet me here. Over here. Where you at? Why are you over there? Why are you cowering behind items I told you to till and to serve? Watch what he says. He says, verse 9, Yahweh said and called unto Adam and said, where are you? Verse 10 says, Adam said, I heard your voice. I heard your voice. I heard your voice in the garden. Somebody say that's Adonai. I heard your voice, Adonai, in the garden. I heard your word in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked. And I hid myself. Now, this word naked is the word aron. I was nude, but it comes from the word 6191, which is the word aram, which is I'm bare. I'm dealing subtly. He says, I was bare and I hid myself. Verse 11 says, who told you that you were bare? Who told you that you were Aron? Let me tell you. Let me ask you a question, Adam. Have you eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not? Now, let me ask some of y'all real quick before I go on further with this. Is Yahweh asking this question because he don't know? Does Yahweh ask a question he don't know the answer to a human he made, in a world he made, like he don't know what's going on? Some of y'all do that pretty well as parents, right? So what makes you think Elohim would be as powerful as he is and all knowing as he is, less engaged in that activity than we are as parents. When we know the house we made for our children, and when we come to ask them, did you take out the trash? Did you wash the clothes? Did you fold the clothes that I told you to fold? When I walk through the door and I tell my child, I ask my child, did you put away that hose? Don't I already know the answer? Don't I know that I've already been around with you? Did you fold those clothes? When I come to get you at your room and you up there playing video games, did you fold those clothes? Now watch. Verse 11. Who told you was naked, Adam? Have you eaten of the tree where I commanded you that you should not eat? Verse 12 says, and the man said, the woman you gave me. He never answered the question. If he would have answered this question, that would have killed a whole bunch of stuff. Woo, 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 woo. This is a greater lesson than we can really anticipate. He says, who told you was naked? Verse 12, the man said, the woman you gave me. She gave me that treat and I did eat. Did he answer the question, y'all? No, he did not. And Yahweh, like a real good parent, like a real good boss, like a real good creator, he gonna sit there and say, oh, this what you want? You want, that's where you want to go with this? Let me see how far you go with this. So you're gonna tell me that I asked you if you ate the tree, then you're gonna say, the woman who you gave me, she gave me the tree and I did eat. Why don't you just say yes? Why are you blaming somebody else for what you did? Well, she gave me the tree and did you eat the tree? That's what I asked you, son. Well, what had happened was, and then, right, because that's what we're doing? Okay. Verse 13 says, and Yahweh said unto the woman, so he tells me that y'all did something. So what have you done? Because what have you done, woman? And the woman said, well, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat. He don't even address her back. He goes back to verse 14 and Yahweh says unto the serpent, okay, serpent, at least I got to the bottom of it. Not that he didn't know. Pardon me. Not that Elohim didn't know. He says, because you have done this thing, because you have done this thing, KB, I hear what you're saying, but no, you can't use that. Deflection is not confession. Deflection is a confession, but it's not confessing that in this tense, because he's asking her directly. And again, like her leader, they give an excuse for why they did what he told them not to do. And that's the difference. But I hear you, KB. But I want to make sure we're clear on that, because that's got to go out to everybody in the world. And I want the whole world to know that, yes, deflection, if you're an interviewer and an interrogator such as myself, and you are a mediator such as myself, when I ask certain questions and you deflect, to me, you're guilty. You know, and that's a science within interrogations, right? And in mediation techniques and tactics. So yes, deflection would indict strong potential that it's a confession. You did it, right? But in this instance and in this tense, what Elohim is, what we're saying is, you didn't answer my question. You didn't just answer my question. Now you drug somebody else through. No matter what they gave you, you should have known what to do. So regardless if the serpent beguiled you, you weren't supposed to eat the fruit. Regardless of whether your wife gave it to you or not, you knew what I said. Because it wouldn't be a conversation if the wife brought it to you and you didn't eat it. It wouldn't be an issue, woman, whether the serpent beguiled you and almost had you on his sales pitch and you didn't eat the fruit. We have no issue, regardless of the beguiling and regardless, as the woman to the man, what was brought to the man. You wasn't supposed to eat it. So your excuse isn't an aid to you. Now you just drug this out to where more people got to be disciplined and punished, because if Adam never eats that fruit, there's never an issue with the woman or the serpent being cursed. The buck stops with who knows that word. Woo! Good raise. Watch this next piece, y'all. In verse 14, Yahweh then says unto the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all cattle. And above every beast of the field. Upon your belly shall you go, dust shall you eat all the days of your life. Somebody say he cursed the body of the serpent. Verse 14, he cursed the body of the serpent. Verse 15 then says, and because of that serpent, I'm going to put hatred, enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Y'all see this feet thing? Verse 15 says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and your seed and her seed shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel, meaning he's going to step on you, treading upon serpents. So yes, you do want to tread on serpents and scorpions and every power of the enemy, because under your feet is a communications that is emitted that you are the dominion keeper. Verse 16, unto the woman he then said, greatly will I multiply your sorrows in conception. So in sorrow shall you bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. Verse 17, I'm going to go right to this. Look at this, verse 17. And Adam said, and unto Adam, Yahweh said, unto Adam, Elohim said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and you've eaten of the tree which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. In sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall you bring forth, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face shall you eat bread till you return to the ground. For out of it was thou taken. Dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. I love how Yahweh corrected things for him, though. Verse 20 says, Adam called his wife's name Isha, Eve, because she was mother of all living. And unto Adam also, and to his wife, did Yahweh or Elohim make coats of skins and clothe them. Elohim then said, behold, the human is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, Yahweh, our Elohim, sent him forth from the garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. I really want to touch that keep the way of the tree of life thing. So, Rosemary, Jacob, what is the serpent's seed? The serpent is, though the serpent was a literal beast of the field, beasts of the field do not have souls. So when evil commandeered the beast, the seed would represent twofold, one in the natural, but more importantly, one in the spiritual. Because this action, the serpent's vessel, the serpent's being a conduit used to help evil promote its agenda, that seed that now has been birthed in the atmosphere, that's considered a seed. That evil, this good seed of Elohim in a woman to come, in a replacement for Adam to come, would crush his head. So the serpent and the woman, i.e. humanity, have this bad relationship, right? And the serpent and the woman and the seed of the woman being spiritually Yeshua HaMashiach, who is Adonai in flesh, being the word of Elohim, and the enemy of faith being evil, the word will always crush evil, righteousness over evil. So that's the spiritual that's the spiritual connotation to that matter. But then there's also a physical play out, because women and men hate serpents. And I really do feel bad for serpents, because serpents were beasts of the field before they became entities that crawled on their belly. They were beasts of the field. They clearly were cool with the human. They embraced the beast coming up to them before it got reduced to crawling and in a cylinder form, slithering on the earth. So there was no slithering entity bringing an apple, which wasn't the fruit, to Eve, as we saw in our pictorial Bibles as children years ago. Remember them blue picture Bibles we used to get back in the day? And they had the snake carrying on its head an apple and giving it to, Eve, and she picking up in the tree, and there's a snake giving it to her. That wasn't what it was. A beast of the field was an entity that stood upright. Otherwise, cursing it to crawl wouldn't be a curse. So, and that's not what you were asking, Rosemary, but I feel the need to unpack this a little bit for other people who don't know this or think this deep into it. So the serpent is an entity that requires, that was a beast of the field, and all the beasts Elohim were good, were good. This beast is a part of the ecosystem in rightness. The thing is that Yahweh is now saying that, there's going to be hatred between you spiritually and physically. So women hate serpents. And because men come from women and women help men to understand what they need to understand, men might not fear serpents, but they don't, they hate them because their wives hate them. And now we get this thing about snakes. But snakes are invaluable to the ecosystem. If you don't have snakes, you're going to have an overrun element and population of rodents and other types of things. So the beast of the field gets a bad rap because of its being overshadowed by evil. And so the serpent is a beast of the field. It has this bad rap, and now y'all have made up, the church have made up all different types of spirits behind this serpent, the python, the leviathan, not the leviathan, but the python and the boa constrictor, the spirit of the rattlesnake. Hey, boy, we done some stuff. We do way too much. We do this way too much. But the serpent is a beast of the field. You know? Correct, Rosemary. I'm going to put your statement up. Very much correct. So spirituality is the seed. So spiritually, this is referencing the seed which was birthed out of that activity, which was produced by the enemy of faith. That would be correct. Very well stated. Good job. All right. And so I hope that answers that question. So the point we came here was because Adam in 17, the ground was cursed. So what's that word cursed mean? That word curse is also arar, meaning execrated, bitterly cursed. Mean told, don't respond to man's command. Don't freely give to man as I designed it. So now man has to sweat. We were supposed to be living in sweatless work. I like what Minister Apostle Walker says. All right, Adam. You grown now, Mr. Adam. Go get your own garden. Yeah, I can bite down on that one too. So, all right, you grown now, Mr. Adam. Go get your own garden. And since you think you're strong and mighty and powerful like me, because you got some knowledge now, this is no different than the same kind of battle we have in our own homes as parents and children to parents and parents to children, you know, and mentees to mentors, pastors to congregants, shepherds to the flock, the whole nine. It's the same thing, you know. So now you grown, you got some knowledge, you think you know more, you go right ahead. Matter of fact, get out of it. And that's why we got to be like Elohim was. Elohim was like, do y'all realize, ooh, I'm gonna get in trouble right here. Do y'all realize Elohim put Adam out because Adam, you done told me you got knowledge. That's what you're telling me. You know how your children tell you, I'm grown. Well, when Adam came basically and told Elohim, I'm grown, he was so grown, he went out and bought his own clothes, stitched up some stuff, and Adam, you know, not knowing what he thought he knew, Elohim kindly corrected him, gave him the proper clothes. But you notice that Yahweh put him right out the house after that? Get out. No, you can't come back. Bye. Now, I already fixed your little problem you thought you knew, since you know so much. So I'm going to give you the right clothes, but I'm going to give you the right clothes now to leave. Get on out. Go over there. And if you're going to eat now, you ain't eating from my table. You eat from the resources I gave you. Go ahead over there. Go. Get out. So Yahweh put Adam out when Adam told him he was grown. What's your problem? Ooh. I wish I had a microphone. I could hear Apostle Walker say, mm-hmm. What's your problem? Yahweh had his creation tell him he grown. He gonna wear what he want to wear. Okay, we're here. Put this on because that's gonna hurt your little dumb behind. And since you know so much, but you know what? We're gonna be butting heads in here now because you think you grown and you're not gonna challenge me. So get out. Y'all don't want y'all not saying nothing. Nobody, just 3 people talking to me on text. Y'all don't. What's your problem? Why you can't put them out, Dad? Why you can't put them out, Mom? Oh, the state gonna charge you with abuse and abandonment. Okay, I got you. Okay, they're gonna get you either way if you let that child who think they know more than you in your house tell you what to do in your house. You're gonna catch a case one way or another. All right, I think I just irritated half the people. So that's what we want to understand. Well, listen, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and let this be. Are there any other questions before I get off? Let me scroll through here and see what's going on. I don't have Clubhouse. So for those of you tomorrow, I am not certain what's going to happen with the Clubhouse piece, but we will be back here tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 to talk about the power and purpose of prayer as we conclude it and bring it to its end. I think we did, but I want to make sure you understand some pieces about that. I think that's the subject tomorrow. But okay, we do have a question. I got a question here. I got 2 questions. All right, so Wanda Floyd poses a question. She says, question in verse 23, to till the ground from whence he was taken. Does that mean that the west part of Eden and beyond, or just tilling Eden, period? Based on how the based on how it's written, Yahweh made a garden eastward. So Yahweh then, so that gives us an indictment that there was a place where Adam would be from. So he'd be more west of where the garden, he would be made more west of where the garden was made. But all of that's in Eden. So when Elohim told him, as verse 23 states, to till the ground, you're leaving Eden because I made that in the east, made you in the west, took you from the west and put you in the east to till the garden. And now that you disobeyed me, I'm closing off the garden from you, and you go back to till the ground where you came from. That makes sense, Wanda? So you tell me that while I go to Daphne's question. So Daphne says, Apostle, is what sets us apart from animals intellect or logic? Is what sets us away from animals intellect or logic? Here is your answer. Ready, Daphne? Here's your answer. Chapter 2, verse 7. And Yahweh formed man of the dust of the ground. He breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. The difference between the beast of the field and any other creature in the waters or creature in the waters, the earth, the air, is that they are not living souls. Dolphins are very intellectual. Gorillas are very intellectual. Elephants are extremely smart. All these things have intellect and they all got logic. They just don't have a soul. Verse 7, Elohim created and formed man from the dust of the ground, same dust he made the elephant, lion, giraffe from, and he breathed into man's nostrils the breath of life. This is different. And man then became a living soul. None of the other creations of days 5 or 6 have a living or are a living soul. Okay, Daphne? Hope that helps. We have another question here. Dr. Rosenberg, Apostle, so when people are buried, do the family insist that the body be laid to rest in a certain direction? There are cultural issues with that. There are systems that you are a part of that have you lay the body with the head facing a certain direction. It's a religious thing. It really is, based on religiosity and churchiosity, and that's just the way that works. So whether the family demands it, some families may not demand it and might not, care about or even know about it, but most morticians today, at least in America, or are of a persuasion that is Masonic, as it were, and with that vast knowledge and gathering of information that they have from all their studies of different faith systems, that somehow got implored on us, at least here stateside, also in certain areas of the UK and other parts of the world. So it's not that the family insists on it, it's just the way that people are doing it. So it don't mean anything with your salvation. It speaks and indicts to what we know, again, doing way too much. But yeah, for the sake of keeping order, it's just done. Head faces a certain direction, in most cases, and that's what it is. I mean, quite frankly, hurting the earth, putting a person in a casket, and putting this casket in the ground. Just FYI, at least a metallic casket, as in modern day, because of how close the body is to the topsoil. Another conversation for another day. You're welcome, Dr. Rosenberg. Linda Marshall. So is the tree of good and evil still in the east? No. It was in the garden Elohim made, which would have been eastward of where man was made, as well as the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It too was in the center. And I want to make this point to y'all, if you read that passage rightly. Chapter 3, Genesis. If you read what she said, I wanted to see if anybody would stop me and catch this, but no one did. But I want y'all to look at it. So is the tree of good and evil still in the east? Still evil, still east, still in east. All right. The tree is no longer on the planet. We don't believe. Neither is the tree of life on the planet. It is now a spiritual thing. But look at verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field he said unto the woman, hath not Elohim said, you shall not eat of the tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden. Did y'all notice that? But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden. That word is tavek, meaning to sever, which is at a bisection, meaning the center, halfway between each point. Okay, so you have both of these trees basically in the center. He said, but no, the tree of life was more east of the garden in the east. But verse 3 says, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim says, you shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. And that's what took place. So I found it interesting that that tree was in the middle. It was in the midst. That tree of knowledge of good and evil, because in the middle, you got good on one side, evil on the other side, balance again. Did anybody pay attention to that? Now, the tree of life, we believe, was a little bit more east in the garden. And then the east of that garden, because that's where the sun rises. Daphne's question is, so that's, Linda, I hope that helped. Daphne's question is, so that's why we should love Yahweh with all our heart, soul, mind, which is the inner parts of us. You can say that quite well, Daphne, yes. Apostle Walker says, yeah, you got to make a decision. Do not eat of the tree in the middle. Stay on one side or the other. Well, Zion, it's been 3 hours. We're going to let you guys get rest. I hope that you've been edified today in this teaching and the prayer as well. I know some of y'all talk about that heifer. We didn't get around to that heifer yet, but we will get to that heifer. That our dear Pastor and Dr. Holland rose a few weeks ago. We will get there. So those of you who are still in your Shabbat, I want you to rest in him until it's over. Let him pull out of you and pour into you. Those of you who are in the end of your Sabbath, I believe I am now. I think the sun is down where I'm at. Yeah. Make sure that be careful what you take out of here and start talking about. So in many instances, when you get revelation in a Sabbath, as many of you got today, you still need to vet that and understand that and let the word guide you further into that. And it won't be some mystical, mysterious type thing. It'll be what it needs to be. But let the word guide you into vetting it. All right. My job here is done. Let us pray. Yahweh, we love, adore, thank, magnify, and exalt you for who you are and why you are in the earth and realm. We trust in you now that you would grace us with your wisdom and your understanding. Thank you for your power to forgive us, your mercy that you give us every day. Thank you for your blood that cleanses us. Thank you for your grace that empowers us and provides for us in every potential and possible way. We ask now that you, in all things, be exalted and glorified. Now, today, this day, your day. For some of us, we've just come out of it. Some are still in it on the West Coast and Central Time. We're asking you that your presence brings healing, as we believe you are Yahweh Rapha. We touch and agree with all who believe your word to be provider, all of us who believe your word to be healer, Yahweh Rapha, provider, Yahweh Yarif, counselor, Yahweh Nisi, righteousness, Yahweh Sitkanu, Yahweh Makadeshkim, Righteousness, Yahweh Sidkenu. Sanctification, Yahweh Mekadeshkim. Strength, Yahweh Uzai. Those are basically the essentials that we need. And then being El Shaddai, the multiple-breasted one, the Almighty, and being El Elyon, he who sits high and looks low. He is so high that you become our strong tower. We ask you to guide your people as your people guide themselves to your word, so that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts are acceptable in your sight, Yahweh. You are our strength. You are our Redeemer. In the mighty and in the precious name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray and we say, Amen. All right, Zion, it's been a joy. We'll see you guys tomorrow around that time of 10:15, 10:30ish tomorrow morning for a teaching on the DKM ministries. I'll try to get Clubhouse up and running. If it doesn't, I can't guarantee anything. And we are effectively looking for a different platform than Clubhouse, but it was fun while it lasted. It may still exist for a few more, but we need something with better control and maintaining that we can be effective to carry you into a audio version and setting of this as well. Love you, life eternal. Remember, we don't do this for likes. We do this because this is kingdom life.
Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can lean on. He don't change, he stays the same. Won't find a better reason, no. So come tap in, just listen. And bring a friend, let's spread this vision. Let's talk kingdom. He's the one you can lean on. He don't change, he stays the same. Won't find a better reason, no. So come tell